Working Fans Podcast. Cool.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Coming down 3, 2.
Welcome back for another week of the Working Fans Podcast. This is AJ. I'm the former wrestler. We've got Dave, the ultimate fan, here with us. As we do every week, our producer Joe likes to make us sound good and makes us look way more professional than we actually are. As always, you can find us on Twitter, that's @FansWorking, Facebook, Working Fans Pod. We've got email where you can reach out to us and please contact us to let us know what you think of the podcast and for any ideas that you might have. That's workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. We're on Instagram where you can keep up with us at workingfanswrestling_pod. And then you can now listen to us on all major platforms, including Anchor.fm. We're on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Apple Podcasts, and you can actually check us out on YouTube. Now, it's important when you go onto the Apple Podcasts and YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a rating, let us know what you think so you can help us out and we can continue to do what we love and bring you guys in as fans.
This is the patron saint of professional wrestling, Brandon Thurston, and you're listening to the Working Fans Podcast.
Working Fans Podcast. We are here today with a multi-talented individual in the world of wrestling. Not only does he wrestle, he hosts WrestleNomics Radio on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. He trains at Grapplers Anonymous. He is the patron saint of professional wrestling, Brandon Thurston. Brandon, how are you doing today?
What's up? I'm impressed. Sometimes I get invited on podcasts and I'm like, do they know me as the wrestler? Do they know me as the WrestleNomics thing? Or you knew all of it.
I actually became a fan of yours through WrestleNomics before I even saw you wrestle. And the first time you kind of popped up on our radar, for wrestling at least, was when you did the Uncharted Territory series for Beyond.
Yeah.
And that feud you've had with Jay Freddy was just amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. 2019 was a pretty interesting year. I think I've been wrestling for a long time, for many, many years, but I think Beyond Wrestling is sort of a super indie buzz promotion, and fortunately they brought me in 2019 and had me do Uncharted Territory and stuff, and I think that was the first time that a lot of people who knew me for other reasons saw me wrestle, so that was very cool.
Just to kind of start at the beginning, what first hooked you about wrestling, and when did you first become a fan?
I've been aware of wrestling for as long as I can remember. I can't remember a time when I didn't know what wrestling was. I have like vague memories. I think of sitting on the couch and watching wrestling with my dad, maybe Hulk Hogan, maybe Randy Savage. My first really prominent memory of wrestling is SummerSlam 91, of like watching a wrestling event. It was SummerSlam 91. I think I have some memories of WrestleMania 7 before that, but definitely SummerSlam 91, and I think I might have even been a WWF magazine subscriber before that.
Wow.
Yeah, the Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect match was reenacted many times on the living room floor with action figures.
Nice.
Man, that's actually one of the matches that made me a big Bret Hart mark, because he was like the Hart Foundation guy and I liked him, but then when I was like, whoa, like, you mean these wrestlers can eventually go on and have good singles runs too? You know, like in my mind, I'm just like so excited to see that, yeah. Actually, it was when I transferred from Hogan to Bret. It's cool to hear that you were big in that time period.
Yeah, I like to think that I was a work rate smart from a very early age. I was a big fan of Hogan too as a kid, but yeah, I mean, like my coming of age and coming of being a wrestling fan was really in Bret's rise more than it was in Hogan's. I guess I was a little bit too young for, the glory days of Hogan.
See, it's funny because with me, Hogan, I was old enough to like get behind Hogan, but I started to almost wane on Hogan. Like I was just at that point, I was just getting disinterested. Like I had seen the matches and I kind of started to figure out what was going on a little bit. But Bret had this unique style, and it started getting me like, oh wait, I kind of like the matches Bret and Perfect and these guys are putting on, and that kept me as a wrestling fan.
Yeah, Bret's the best.
Have you ever fallen out with wrestling? Has there ever been a time where you didn't follow it, or you were just like, I've had enough of it for right now?
I think during the mid-90s, I think I wasn't as much of a fan. Maybe 95, 96, 97 there. I wasn't as much of a fan. I think I was always still kind of staying in touch with wrestling though. And then, I guess like 10 years later, so I was in independent wrestling for a while. I was a wrestler kind of, locally. And then, 2007, I remember like we went on like a camping trip with a bunch of wrestlers, and, we hung out or whatever. And then later it was Sunday, and we're going to go watch the pay-per-view. And we watched the pay-per-view, and CM Punk was supposed to wrestle Chris Benoit. And I remember, like, sort of vaguely kind of half hungover hearing that, like, Benoit's not there. Like, he's got a family emergency or something. And, of course, you find out the next day that Benoit and his family are dead. And you find the day after that, he murdered his family and then killed himself. And, so we were supposed to go to train that Tuesday. And we went to training and got out of the car. And one of the first things that my friend and I, who's also a wrestler, encountered was a couple of other wrestlers offering my friend steroids. The hookup on steroids. And, so it was sort of a conversation on the ride home of like, man, wrestling's never going to change. It's just, if it wasn't going to change after that, what is it ever going to change for? So that's just a really prominent memory to me. So I guess I think there were some other morale issues in the local indie wrestling environment at that time. So after that, I sort of became a little bit disenchanted with independent wrestling in my area, and I was going to college at the time, and I decided to sign up for the wrestling team. I had never done any wrestling in high school, but I signed up for the wrestling team, and they let me sign up, and I figured this would be like maybe they would practice 3 days a week, because that's what we were doing. We were running around the campus to get our cardio up 3 days a week. And then we started on the mats, and I sort of offhandedly asked somebody, how many 3 days a week do we do this? And then he said 5 days a week. I was like, oh my God, what did I got myself into here? But I did a full season of amateur wrestling with college-level wrestlers who were all pretty good high school wrestlers, I guess. It was an invaluable experience as far as it really exploded my cardio. And I feel it gave me a background of amateur wrestling, the technical wrestling that I always wanted, but never actually had the experience to go with. So it was a great time, it was a very, very hard thing to do. It was definitely worth it. And then I ended up getting back into wrestling just after that wrestling season ended. Yeah.
Two things, because you gave us a lot there, which was pretty good.
Yeah.
One, as far as your amateur wrestling, do you felt that gave you a lot of discipline to deal with things, the commitment of 5 days a week, and just in your life and career? And also, on a side note, like you brought up the Benoit stuff and wrestling changing. I just watched Dark Side this week with New Jack, and I was wondering, have you been watching those, and what do you thought?
I plan on watching the Benoit one for sure. I've heard the New Jack one is good as well. But yeah, I'm definitely going to watch the Benoit one eventually.
It's tough.
Yeah, I've heard it's heavy.
Yeah, it is.
Amateur wrestling gave me a really strong capacity for cardio. Like, it made my cardio very good, and it made me sort of understand what it took to have good cardio. And I don't know, I think it helps me get in great shape and, get used to putting in the work to be in great shape,
I saw you studied philosophy at the University of Buffalo. Did you take any business classes, or have you always just been good with business and numbers?
Wow, you know about my philosophy degree too, that's awesome. So, let's see. Here's a great story too. So I guess I did take some business classes in like community college, but not like memorably. I don't feel like I sit here and like have a great deal of knowledge that I remember learning from those classes. I went to a community college for a long, long time. Went through a couple different majors. I ended up getting like a 1-year accounting certificate or something. I don't feel like any of that really contributes to this WrestleNomics thing so much. But when I did go to UB, one of the requirements was I had to take like some statistics class, which I kind of dreaded, because I knew it would be a lot of math. So I took like social statistics, which seemed to be the most appropriate thing to match with a philosophy degree, I guess. But that is where I learned what a correlation coefficient was, which I do use pretty often today when I go through spreadsheets and stuff. But so here's what happened. I took that class. I did pretty well on all my other philosophy classes. Luckily in community college I had taken so many classes that I only really had to take classes that were really directly related to my major by the time I got to UB. But this sort of statistics class, I didn't do that well in it in the months of the semester. Didn't do that well on the tests and stuff. But I'm probably going to pass with a C or a D, I don't know. Or I'm sorry, a C or a B or something like that. So final exam comes and, I've got to do pretty well on the final exam probably to not have a bad grade here. So I write down what the time is for the final exam. Then I go to the campus for the test on the final exam day. And the time that I've written is actually the time that the testing period ends. So I figure I'm showing up there like 10 minutes early. It's going to be all good. I show up and I've got 10 minutes left to take the test. And the professor just told me to just randomly fill in the Scantron. So I don't know what my grade was on that test, but I got a D in that class in social statistics, which is the most similar thing, I guess, to Wrestlenomics that I ever really studied. I think I wanted to do a philosophy major because, let's see, I was in the Air Force too, just after the time that I did the amateur wrestling thing. So I went to the Air Force. I was in the Air Force Reserves for a 6-year contract. So I went to basic training, and I went to the tech school that you have to go to after that. So I was sort of away from home for something like 5 months. And then once you're in the military, of course, you use a GI Bill. And I decided, you know what? I got the GI Bill now. I don't have to feel bad about taking money out of the bank for going to school. I'm just going to get a degree in whatever thing I want to get in, not be practical at all. So I really took an interest in some philosophy classes also, and I decided to major in that as well. So Wrestlenomics is through the Voices of Wrestling Network. I discovered them in 2014 or so, and oftentimes they had some good writing on the site, and I ended up writing for them and stuff. And I did a lot of the first writing things that I did, some of them anyway, were not very economics based at all. I did a thing on W language, all the business speak words that they use, and then I did a thing where I traveled to a few WWE shows, and I wrote some, I don't know what you could call them, some creative nonfiction about that, and those were within a certain fan base. Those were well liked. As time went on, I was already really interested in the work with Chris Harrington of Mookie as well. And as it turned out, Mookie used to live in Rochester, New York. I live in Buffalo, New York. And Mookie had kind of been involved in the independent wrestling scene in Rochester before he moved to Minnesota. So it turned out we knew a lot of the same people, and we had the common interest in wrestling economics. So we started to become closer friends, and we ended up doing the Wrestlenomics podcast together. And we did that for a couple of years before we got hired by AEW, and I learned a lot in that time. That was
actually a dark day when you guys announced that the Wrestlenomics podcast, as it had been, was coming to an end, because you guys... It's actually my next question, but there is so much information in the average Wrestlenomics episode that I love listening to it, but a lot of the times it feels like it goes over my head because you guys just know so much. How much prep time goes into an average episode?
So I'm in the middle of recording one right now. So when I was dealing with Mookie, we would have a Google Doc, a Google Word doc that we would both have access to, and we would build up some notes as the week went on. We were doing a Patreon episode every week too for a while there, so we were doing a free episode and a Patreon episode every week, so we were doing a lot of stuff towards the end. But that would be a fair amount of prep work. I mean, we would have maybe 10 to 15 page Word doc. But like I said, I'm actually in the middle of recording one right now, but at this point, there isn't much prep work to it. What I have right now is just a very basic bullet point outline, and I just sort of rattle off stuff. Hit pause on record a lot, and then look something up, and then record again,
Yeah, Brandon, we get a lot of people on here that are, honestly, some are good talkers, some are very charismatic, some we gotta kind of get going with, but you're one of the most well-spoken guys. I'm almost amazed you don't have a degree in communications or something here.
You think so? I've always been terrified of public speaking, and in fact, to do Wrestlenomics was a big deal. I was I remember, listening to a lot of podcasts and being maybe it would be cool if I did that someday, but oh my God, other than death, you've got, public speaking is the greatest fear that there is, But,
oh yeah.
It's always been something that's difficult for me, but I'm getting more used to doing the show alone. That was a really weird thing to deal with. I don't know what kind of show I should do or how I'm going to do a podcast by myself, but I'm getting more into the groove and getting more into like a pattern of what I'm going to do. But I think it was getting to be this way a little bit before the coronavirus has everybody staying at home, but staying at home, I have a little bit more time lately to do stuff, getting into more of a groove this way.
I remember with the WrestleNomics, the Patreon account you guys had, you would also have, I believe, all the documents you worked off of up there.
Oh, that's right. We would share the doc. That's right.
And let me see, where am I? Sorry, I've been such a big WrestleNomics fan for so long that to get into these things with you, it's kind of a big deal. But
that's awesome.
How much do you think this corona outbreak right now will hurt the indie industry going forward? Because you hear about a lot of those shows around WrestleMania. The promoters are worried about even being able to keep their company open. Is that a real fear that they have to worry about, do you think?
I think it depends on what the business is. You hear Mike from High Spots talk about how he's going to have to sell his house.
Yeah.
If there was no WrestleMania weekend, and now we know there's not. I think it depends, and it's hard to tell from the outside what the financial situation is. Like maybe with Mike, I think it's Pachicho is his last name, from High Spots. It sounds like he really needed WrestleMania weekend to make ends meet. I think I heard somebody make the comparison, sort of make the analogy that for some of these indie promotions, it's like how some retail stores are at Christmas time, where they kind of run in the red for most of the year, but they know Christmas time is going to be such strong business for them. It's going to make ends meet. They're going to make a profit. So taking that out of their business calendar, is really catastrophic for them. So I think that's the case for somebody like High Spots, WrestleCon. But I think the average independent promotion around the country is just kind of running from show to show. I think a lot of indies, they don't really make a profit anyway, and I think it's sort of like, I think there are some independent companies that on the whole say take a full year as if they actually kept records. So let's imagine that an average indie actually kept financial records. I think a lot of them would just be running in the red, and I think in some cases it's just like the promoter will take it on as an expense, as like this is a hobby that he does. He's got a real job, Monday through Friday that he goes to. They actually makes his living at. And no, it's not to say that there aren't probably quite a few independent wrestling promoters who do make money at it, but I think a lot of them don't make much money at all. And it's every show is just like you have to have money to front the show with, just to rent the venue with. In the case of New York, where there's a lot of expenses that are put on promoters to run a show, you got to have money for other things as well, including insurance. I think the average indie will be okay, but some of them obviously are going to be hit hard. I think what's a problem as well, obviously, is that there's some independent wrestling promoters who are fortunate enough to have wrestling to be their living. That's their primary source of income, is wrestling and selling their merchandise. And they're obviously being hit hard right now because they can't do any of that. So there's that as well.
From a business perspective, is it interesting to see how this virus has kind of affected how WWE's handling WrestleMania? Just the way they're going to see money roll in from this, it seems like it's going to change it. And the fact that WWE is almost trying to get their pay-per-views out other places, like it's on Fight TV now.
Yeah, it's a weird thing that they're doing, right? You can watch WrestleMania Saturday and Sunday for $10, and cancel your subscription on Monday if you want. Or you can pay $60 to watch it on Fight, or the Fox's various streaming services, or your traditional cable or satellite. And that's always been the case on cable and satellite throughout the history of the WWE Network. They've always had every one of their pay-per-views on cable and satellite to buy. So you wonder what's going on there. I think what's going on there is that WWE wanted to sell its pay-per-views off of the network to a major streaming player like Peacock or like ESPN Plus. And Amazon was talked about by one stock analyst. Maybe they were talking to Fox in some capacity too. I don't think Fox really has a streaming service comparable with something like ESPN Plus. But maybe they were talking to Fox as well. I can't imagine they expect to do much business. I was listening to Observer Live a couple of days ago, and they were sort of confounded by what WWE could possibly be expecting, or that maybe Fox is going to be disappointed with the lack of buys that they're going to be able to sell because the prices undercut multiple times by the WWE Network price point. But I'm guessing maybe, like, I think Fox must know that. Like, they can't be blind to the fact that you can watch these events for $10. And they have to know that.
Yeah.
They're that unaware and that dumb. So I'm guessing that there's some other experimental reason for it. Maybe just to see if the number of buys that they can sell is within their expectations. Maybe to gather some other data so that they have an idea of like what it would be worth. Maybe someday later, if they want to buy the rights to all the pay-per-views, year round.
And I mean, if you think about it too, like even before all this happened, these major networks, one of the reasons why WWE and UFC were doing so well is because they were just desperate for content. We're in the age of content. And now, ain't nobody got no content. So maybe that's part of it too, right? It's just like, hey, give us something to fill in here.
Yeah, that's definitely why you see ESPN get the rights to a few WrestleMania replays.
Sure.
And you got Fox Sports is airing something like 40 some odd hours of WWE library content.
Oh, that's wild.
As you said, there's no live sports out there for anybody to air, and there normally would be.
You're also a trainer at Grapplers Anonymous. How did you get into training wrestlers, and how long have you been doing it?
So way back in Empire State Wrestling is the local promotion that I've been most associated with in the Buffalo area. And sort of way back, I kind of helped a wrestler named Will Calrissian train people. It's kind of funny looking back on like our primitive days of independent wrestling where we barely knew what we were doing. And I feel like I've actually learned a lot through the years. But so I did a little bit of that sort of in the mid-2000s, being around training and maybe assisting with training a little bit. When we essentially restarted ESW in 2009, I did a little bit of training there, well, a few sessions, I guess, that I was training for. And then when Grapplers Anonymous started in 2014, I had nothing to do with it starting. It was started by a couple of guys who run a local business, and they were involved in indie wrestling, and they really wanted to get back to wrestling. I guess the story is they went to a local show and saw wrestling that they were not satisfied with, and so they asked the question, what do we have to do to make wrestling in the area better? And the answer was, well, these guys have no place to train, so I think their business was going pretty well at the time, so they decided to lease out this warehouse space, which is now where Grapplers Anonymous is. So I started going. Edward Parks, who's now the Blade and the Butcher and the Blade, he wanted to go over a match that we were going to have in a few weeks. So we went there to train, and that's the first time that I went there to train. And I just started to, sort of become more friendly with Mikey every night, who was really the person who was, given a lot of responsibility there to manage the gym and stuff. I just started to go there more regularly, and I guess just sort of by default, I was pretty often the most experienced one there, and they had a lot of guys. And at first, I think they didn't want to have students there, but eventually they got approached by a lot of people who wanted, to see if they could be pro wrestlers. So they were taking some people on, and just sort of by default, I was helping those guys out, and it's just sort of snowballed from there into becoming a more traditional wrestling school.
Going back to your days when you were training, what would you say maybe was some of the best advice you ever got training, maybe you still use to this day, that helps you out, whether in wrestling or life?
Well, I was trained by a guy named Hector who wrestled as Sakura, who wrestled the High Blue Samaski. He trained us for a while, and then a tag team from Ontario called the All-Nighters trained us. And actually Beth Phoenix came with them, and another wrestler named Kevin Grace came with them. So I trained with them for a while, and I learned a lot of basics from them. A couple of years after that, though, I ended up going to Rochester once or twice a week for about a 10-month period, and I trained a lot with Jimmy Olsen, if you guys know who that is. He wrestled in Chikara a lot with Colin Olsen, who's now Colin Delaney, right? So I went to Rochester, and Brody Lee was there at the time, because he's from Rochester. He wasn't really a trainer, but he was there at training a lot. But I learned a lot from Jimmy as far as, I saw, when he performed, I saw a lot of fire in him, and sort of directly, I think I learned, the gravity, if you will, of selling, or wrestling is it's not like a video game where you do moves and then you recover instantly, but sort of the idea that the longer a match goes on, sort of the heavier it kind of needs to get, sort of the idea of remembering damage that you took earlier in the match.
Yeah.
And just how to protect that and make sure that that's something gets used in your match if it's appropriate.
Totally random here, but was Jimmy Olsen, does anyone know, was that also the paperboy from Superman, too?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, like, when I hear that name.
Same man.
It is, okay.
Same man.
Alright, I was wondering.
Now, as we covered earlier, as a wrestler, we were finally able to see you on uncharted territory, and that match with you and Jay Freddy, where he took that horrifying, like, fall to the ground. I think we tried getting you on just after that, because we had interviewed Jay Freddy a couple weeks before, because we were fans of both of yours, and that just happened in the middle, and it was just wild to see. But what other promotions have you worked with? I've got you down for Empire State Wrestling, and I see another one called PWR. I wasn't familiar with that.
PWR is a promotion that runs in Erie, Pennsylvania, and they booked me for about a year and a half now, but I've worked for them for a lot of years, over the years that I've been wrestling. I was the PWR heavyweight champion for almost a year. I just lost it recently to Ben Cole. But it's been PWR, they've given me a lot of freedom to sort of have main event matches with people who can, just let me have the kind of match that I want to have. So it's been a lot of fun, and I've been a heel there. It's I always say there's different kind of crowds in wrestling. And it's wise to anticipate that. There's super indie crowds, and there's certain stuff that you can expect a super indie crowd to get. And like Wrestling and Beyond was the first, I would say, fully formed super indie crowd that I've really gotten to wrestle in front of, at least regularly. And then there's more local crowds and more like kids and families there. And there will be like young adults there as well. But in PWR it's a lot of heavy heel and face, and it is in Beyond Wrestling too. It's a different sort of it's a different kind of wrestling. There's a local indie crowd and there's a super indie crowd. I think they kind of want different things, or there's different things won't work for them.
One last question for you. How have your goals changed as your career's progressed? And do you have any goals that are currently on your list ahead of you?
That's a good question. If you would ask me, it changes a lot, maybe sort of depending on the mood. But if you would ask me, in 2016 or something, all I really wanted to do was, be a good trainer and produce good wrestlers and sort of, watch them succeed as much as possible. But I still want that. It is, in many ways, maybe the most satisfying thing I've done in wrestling is train other people. Although last year was a really fun year as far as like creative fulfillment. Wrestling ESW, and I had a really big match with Daniel Garcia, who is someone who trained grapplers, and getting to Wrestling Beyond and really being given some freedom in my first match there to go, 18-20 minutes with Jay Freddy. So that was a really special year. But just my goals now as far as being a wrestler are just to train people as effectively and to make them be as the best wrestlers they can possibly be, and to sort of give them an education that not only helps them contribute well to shows, but hopefully they'll pass on, a better wrestling than the one we inherited. I think there's a lot of there can be a lot of unfairness and sort of social problems in wrestling. As important as it is to become a good wrestler, I think it's really important to encourage people to contribute to a positive environment, a positive culture in wrestling. And hopefully we're doing that, and sort of along with that, understand like how to get your fair market value in wrestling. But just as far as a wrestler, I just want to have good matches with people for as long as I can, and to train people well and create as many good wrestlers as we can, and just keep learning about wrestling and keep learning wrestling a lot of stuff. I think the next thing for me as far as like the wrestling business stuff is to maybe start talking to some major investors at WWE and seeing what help I may be able to provide them in terms of understanding WWE as a business and the industry that they're a part of.
Nice, that would be a major move. Before we let you go, is there anything you want to promote? Where can people find you?
Sure, you can go to WrestleNomics.com, which is I sort of relaunched that as kind of a blog and kind of a library of resources for data about the wrestling business. I think it's really useful for people doing research on wrestling, people who are writing about wrestling or whatever. So that's at WrestleNomics.com. You can follow WrestleNomics on Twitter at WrestleNomics. You can follow me on Twitter at Brandon Thurston. You can follow Grapplers Anonymous at Graps Anonymous. And I've got no shows to promote because of COVID-19.
Do you have merchandise that people can find anywhere?
If you really want a Patron Saints a pro wrestling shirt, I probably got a few of them if you DM me. DMs are open.
Excellent. Thank you, Brandon. I can't tell you how big this interview was for me, listening to you so often, and then actually getting to have you on the show. It's been an honor.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That means a lot. You know, when we do like the Patreon, you know, we have like X number of people there, but it means a lot to like when people reach out or to hear the voices of people that have supported us, and it makes it feel like it's worthwhile.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, and hopefully you stay healthy during this outbreak.
Yeah, stay safe.
Yeah, you guys too.
All right, so that wraps us up for this week. Thank you again for listening to the Working Fans Podcast. So as always, you can find us on Twitter at FansWorking. Our Facebook page is Working Fans Wrestling Pod. We have email where you can reach out to us and let us know what you think also. That's workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, workingfanswrestling_pod. And then as always, please continue to listen to us on Anchor.fm, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, all your major platforms. If you're following us on Apple Podcasts, which we are also on now, and YouTube, please make sure you subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. It helps us bring you these podcasts where we get to talk to you and talk with you every week.